For anyone who listens to this, anybody who is trying to balance, I can say that in the moment it's hard. I can say in the moment is really hard. There will be situations, circumstances that'll be easier than others. However, when you look down weeks, months, maybe years later, it's going to be worth it. Every time. Every time it will be worth it. So my name is Kevin Brooks. I came to know Jesus through my dad. Just to share a little bit, I was adopted at 13 years old. I didn't know anything about God. I didn't know anything about salvation or God's love for me. I was nowhere near close to the church. And when I was adopted, my dad had me and my brother attend services and go to prayer meetings and help out around the church, Sunday school, the whole 9 yards. And after a few months or a year or so, I started to kind of catch on and learn about who God was, learn about the basic stories that a lot of us hear in Sunday school. And I got to feel at that moment, I thought was God's love for me. I was, baptized. From that moment on, I've been trying to follow this thing called Christianity. And so, yeah.
About what age did that take place?
That was maybe around 14, 15.
And as you followed Jesus since that time, what was an area or what is an area in your life where you felt Jesus has been calling you into greater intimacy, obedience, or maybe lordship over your life?
There was a few times, a little afterwards, as I got older, where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to go to college or join the military. I was really big on like law enforcement. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. Not really as much where God wanted me. I found myself, the more I was trying to find out what I wanted, it seemed as if nothing was going the way I planned for it to go. And so before I knew it, I looked up and I started college and hated it. I started a little 9 to 5 job, and it was bringing in money. I didn't have peace. I knew that I was missing something. I just didn't know exactly what it was. And if I could be very honest, I joined a church at this point in my life. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I joined the church. I knew a few people there, so I ended up joining this small church, and I grew depressed. I couldn't sleep. Before I knew it, I just felt this longing for like God's presence. I don't know if that makes sense. I remember to this day there were nights where I would just play worship music and go to sleep and then go to work the next day, and the same thing happened. I would attend church on Sunday, of course. I think that's just because of what I was so used to doing, and I wouldn't really get anything out of it. I would, attend Wednesday night Bible study again because I was so used to doing it. I wasn't getting anything out of it, and I think I was involved in the cleaning up of the church and the church vans. And because of the responsibility, they gave me a key because we had to be the last ones. We came in when everyone left to clean up. And I remember I got the key and I didn't think about it at the time. I was just doing my job. And there was one night I could just feel it in my bones. Something was not right. And the only thing I could think of was go to church and pray. And that's really how it started. I didn't know at the time, but God was calling me to this whole new atmosphere that I wasn't used to. There would be times where I would feel so comfortable praying and so at peace where I could literally go to sleep. There was a it's hard to explain. There was a calming within me after spending this time with God. And this isn't like, I'm not talking about a 15-minute prayer or a 10-minute prayer. Like there would be nights where I could live my day, a normal day, go to work, whatever, hang out with friends, and 9 o'clock at night, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I need to get to the church. I need to have my time with God. Now I don't need a 5-minute prayer closet thing. I don't need a two scriptures and then go to sleep kind of thing. Like I need to get in the Word of God and I need to have this time with God. And I would sit there and I would be there for 3, 4 hours sometimes. And this is daily. just because I felt like there was something. It was something about being in the presence of God. It was like a relationship that I never experienced. Before that moment, I lived out this Christian thing because I was somewhat taught to do it. I didn't have this, this thing for myself. I know for a fact the phase that I was in at that point, I was being called deeper. Past the typical Sunday morning services, Wednesday night services, I was being called in for a relationship with God.
So when did you first realize that he was calling you into something greater, into this deeper relationship, into greater purpose in your life?
I don't think I realized until after the fact. I think in the moment, I knew that I could feel that there was a longing for God, but I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that something wasn't right. I knew that I felt peace. I felt a calming when I was in the presence of God, when I was taking those hours or so to really pray and talk to God as if He was right beside me. So I think I realized it after the fact. I think in the moment I was more desperate to be in the presence, and after the fact I realized, like, man, God is calling you like higher. He's calling you deeper. He wants more from you. There needs to be a relationship there. So after the fact, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of things going on family wise. There wasn't many people I could talk to. And so my spirit was all out of whack. At the time I was working a nice job and I dealt with people all the time. And my attitude wasn't right, my spirit wasn't right, and I just didn't feel at peace. I felt like I was alone. Does that make sense? I felt like I was alone. I can't say I feel like people were against me. I just felt alone. And so I knew that I had enough sense to know that on Sundays and Wednesdays, I felt better. So I guess I knew, like, this doesn't feel good. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel I have no aim and direction. I have no purpose. I'm not happy with myself or where I am and mentally. And I remember, Sundays and Wednesdays, like I only did it for, because I was taught to do it, but I still felt a little bit better. When I say, I just didn't feel right, I think that's what it was. I knew that I felt better. Things seemed better when I was in the presence of God. I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to feel alone. I wasn't battling depression. So yeah.
So in this season of loneliness, you're experiencing loneliness, you felt the Lord was meeting you in that loneliness and inviting you into deeper relationship. He was pursuing you in your season of loneliness and inviting you into deeper relationship with him.
I can't even say that he met me. I feel like I feel like the Bible talks about as a deer panted for water. I think that was me. I can't even say I went halfway. I think I had enough to know that the few Sundays and when the few, minutes or hours that I was in church, like I had enough sense to know, like, this is better than me feeling depressed or me feeling alone. I feel like I don't even know how much effort I really put into it. Does that make sense? Like I just felt like it was better for me to be in his presence. But yeah, he definitely was there. But the effort that I made compared to what he did for me is so little. It was like he was calling me. I think you said that. It was like he was calling me. And I just think of that scripture when I talk about what he's done for me and talk about a little bit about my experience. That's what I think of as the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longs for thee. And it's not like we're thinking, like, we think about this hefty deer kind of thing, and he just prancing along in the meadows. Like, no, this deer is thirsty. This deer is longing for the water, and then there God is. And so I felt like the little bit of effort that I made doesn't even compare. It doesn't even. He called me, and it was to the point where I had to go. I remember I had a friend in that time. He asked me, like, I get it. You have to experience time with God. I get that. But why, like, church? I'm like, I don't know, but I have to go. Like, I have to go. It's not like Aaron. It's not a chore. It's like I'm that deer. I'm that deer. Like, I just have to. I have to be in the presence of God.
What challenges or struggles did you run into as you walked through this experience as he guided you through this process, as he invited you into deeper relationship, and as he pursued you? Did you experience any challenges or struggles through that process?
So from there until now, like 6 years later, I would say life and circumstance changed a few things. I ended up leaving that church. I joined the military, and I learned very quickly that everybody claims to be Christian, but they're not. And so I had to learn in that time frame how to walk my walk and not compare to others. I've had to learn and battle with self-esteem. I've had to battle with comparing, because it's one thing for me to say these are my standards and this is how I live my life because this is my relationship with God. And then someone else comes along, we become friends or we go to the same church or whatever the case is, and they say, well, I'm a Christian too, but this is how I walk my walk, and I don't have the same conviction that you have. And I'm looking at them like, oh, okay. And then they're have the nice things and they're living the nice lifestyle, and it's like, okay, God, I'm not trying to compare here. However, I'm looking at what they say and what they do, looking at what I say, what I do, and I'm like, I feel like I'm being punished. So there was a little bit of that. There was trying to figure out what was sin versus what was conviction. I struggled with that for a while. I struggled with anger for a while just because of past hurts in church, with family. It's been a go. But God has been there through it all. Within those 6 years, I've had to learn how to live my walk and still hold my convictions and still have my relationship with Jesus, despite what my neighbor's doing. So yeah.
What happened as you walked in obedience to this call into greater purpose in your life, into greater intimacy and relationship with Jesus? What did you find out about yourself? What did God reveal about himself through this process?
I found out that I got a lot of work to do. I'm reminded of Job. Job wrestled for a while, and there was a set of questions that God asked Job. And the questions weren't to be funny or to be demeaning. The questions were to remind Job that he is God. And I still feel like that every now and then. God has reminded me repeatedly to trust him. Even now, there are times where I can look at the present and look at what I have to offer and say, God, this doesn't add up. And I would be reminded to trust him. I found out that I could be better. I found out that I didn't have to accept anything less than God's love for me. I found out that I have a right to be loved. I found out that I have someone in my corner at all times there for me. And God has proven himself, as far as that part goes. God has proven himself. God has continued to remind me who he is. Even though, sometimes I still don't listen, he's always been there for me. I've been working through, even now, some things in my life involving anger, and God has showed himself to have grace and mercy. He's proven that despite how I may feel, I have the ability to walk this Christian lifestyle while being upset without having sin, without causing sin. And he's proven that. And so like I mentioned earlier, I can be better. There's little excuse. So yeah.
Did saying yes to this journey into greater purpose and relationship with Jesus cost you anything?
Oh yes. It's caused me to not be comfortable. So it's cost me my comfort. It's cost me finances sometimes. It's cost me a few relationships. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I guess I don't know if the right term cost. It made me be a godly man, and I don't want to use the word "made me" either. But it's required me to be a godly man. So it doesn't just cost me, but it costs my family. It costs my wife her comfort. It costs my children their time. It definitely has cost behind it, and it's definitely worth it. The Bible refers to your soul being safe. It doesn't require your finances to be safe, your health, your home, or your family. But it says your soul will be saved, but nothing tangible. And I was talking to someone about that. And, they gave Bible verses, they disagreed. And I said, that's, you want to disagree, that's completely fine. But we have examples after examples where to walk with God cost. And sometimes it costs more than they're willing to pay. So yeah, there's definitely cost for me and my family. But it's worth it. The peace that I have, I mean, it's worth it. I can say that if it wasn't for Jesus, my family will look different. My lifestyle will look different. It cost me, but it was worth it. It was worth it in a whole lot. It was worth it. It was worth it. I mean, the scales don't even they don't even balance. It doesn't even balance. It doesn't not even close. It was worth it. And for anyone who listens to this, anybody who is trying to balance, I can say that in the moment it's hard. I can say in the moment is really hard. There will be situations, circumstances that'll be easier than others. However, when you look down weeks, months, maybe years later, it's going to be worth it. Every time. Every time it will be worth it.
What have you learned through this process?
I've learned that I can't piggyback off of parents or pastors' calling. I've learned that I have to know who God is for myself. And I've also learned that God's love can pick you out of any situation and circumstance. I've learned that there's nowhere that you can go that God's love can't reach you. There's nothing that you can do. Whether I sin into heaven, you're there. Whether I make my bed in hell, you're still there. There's nowhere where you can go. There's nowhere you can find yourself, and God's love can't be there. So there's that. I've learned that really, and that's it. that's the big one right there. I think that's that's the big one right there. I mean, the the love that God has for you, it's so hard for us to even understand. I think that was the biggest thing I've learned. No matter where I am in life, no matter how messed up work or family or relationship or whatever the case is, God's love is still there for me. And sometimes His love isn't always going to be sunshine and rainbow. Sometimes it's going to be harsh. Sometimes it's going to be straightening out. Sometimes it's going to be allowing your sins to find you out. Sometimes it's going to be, tough love. But His love will always be there to carry you and to pick you up. So those are the few things that I've learned, and I'm excited as far as this first part goes to share that with my children when they get older. I had to learn this. I can't. My past relationship with God isn't my relationship. My parents' relationship with Jesus isn't my relationship with Jesus. So you have to get a relationship for Jesus yourself, and I'll be there to help you along the way, and I'll be there to teach. I've had to learn that, and it took that period for me to wake up and understand that.
How is your life different now after answering that call and walking in obedience to this call into greater purpose and greater relationship with Jesus? How is your life different after answering that and being obedient to King Jesus in this area?
I have peace, which was crazy. This is an example. If me and my wife were to lose our job tomorrow, there's not going to be a panic. We're going to do what we're supposed to do to make sure that there's provision, and we're going to pray, but there's not going to be any panic because there's a peace that we have because our relationship with God. Neither one of us would have had, especially me, 3 or 4 years ago, 6 years ago. So there's peace in all things. There is a relationship with God now that wasn't there 6 or 7 years ago, and it's gotten better. It's gotten deeper. It's gotten better. So the relationship with God, there's peace. I mentioned earlier, there's a support system that wasn't there years ago that we now have, that I have. There are things that God has shown me in my own life involving anger, involving depression, involving lying, involving feeling like I'm not enough that I'm still working on. But 6 years ago, we wouldn't even be here. So a lot has changed for me spiritually. A lot has changed when it comes to my relationship with God. So yeah,
Who is Jesus to you?
Jesus to me is a father, but yet a friend. Jesus to me is that one person I can count on whenever I need him. Jesus to me is 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't sleep, and I can put on worship music and just have my own session with Jesus. I don't have to worry about the things of this world. I don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Jesus to me is love and commitment. Jesus to me is the cross, is that commitment to me. He's that carpenter that builds things from scratch, from broken pieces of wood. He's that guy who people sometimes don't trust or people don't know like I know. But he takes broken pieces and broken lives and broken situations and he makes something brand new out of it. So yeah,
Kevin, thanks so much for
you.
sharing your story.
Thank you.